What do you think about when you hear the word Gen Z? One positive word, one negative word.
Energy, belligerent.
Energy and belligerent. Okay, Naomi?
Creativity.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is two words, instant gratification.
Instant gratification.
Yeah.
Welcome to Zamara Podcast, your gateway to financial literacy and well-being.
We are happy to be joined today by two great ladies who have been in the industry for a while. We are recording this from the coastal city of Mombasa at the beautiful Sarova White Sands Hotel. Glad to have you here, Irene, my very good friend. We've known each other for a number of years. Naomi as well. Thank you for finding time to be here today. I'd like my two guests to introduce themselves, just say what they do, then we get into the details of our conversation. I'll start with you, Naomi.
My name is Muita Naomi. I do work with the Zamara team in the consulting and advisory space.
Thank you. Irene?
So my name is Irene Mwangangi. I work for the oil industry, Ola Energy, and I'm in HR.
The interesting conversation you're going to have today is a continuation of our Zamara conference discussion that we had earlier regarding different generations and specifically to Gen Zs. Before I get into this, let me just ask briefly from the two of you, and I'll start with you, Irene. What do you think about when you hear the word Gen Z? One positive word, one negative word.
Energy, belligerent.
Energy and belligerent. Okay, Naomi?
Creativity.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is two words, instant gratification.
Instant gratification.
Yeah.
Anything about impatience?
I wouldn't call it impatience.
Well, I think previous generations seem not to take time, or maybe they have started to take time to understand this generation, in my view. I think if we tap into them, we can get one of the most innovative, time-sensitive, hard-working workforce we can have. We have heard of different countries having old-age workforce, where they're actually inviting younger, quote-unquote, African population to join in so that they can actually reinvent their workforce. Thank God Africa is not one of those. We're just finding that this is mostly in the West. Let's hope not to get there. But again, we have a youthful population, which we have seen in different continents of Africa having some sort of voice in the recent past. Kenya, we have seen this in Nigeria. We saw a bit of it in Tanzania. But then, what is your perspective on the different, and I'll start with you, Irene, different generations and the employment evolution? How has it been? Where are we now? And where are we likely to be headed? Keeping in mind this thing about AI, what do you think is the evolution and where are we heading to?
For me, I see the evolution actually as a positive thing. However, one of the things that has done is call us to introspect. Now, we have the millennials in workspace. We now have Gen Zs. And we have people like me, Gen X. And so there was a lot of culture in the way we did things in the office, during my heydays when I was young.
Mm-hmm.
And it sort of stuck to you. And by the time the millennials joined us, we tried to acculturate them into that. But of course, they came in with their own way of doing things.
Mm.
And the only difference with, say, millennials and Gen Z right now is that the millennials probably were more accepting. They did try to change a lot of things in the workspace, but they were more accepting of the things that Gen X
status quo
who are used to, the status quo. However, the millennials also have proven that they can give room to the Gen Z to now recreate themselves, to create the office. There is more vibrancy, but at the same time, that vibrancy can be very negative because you find they're quick to work. They're hour-based or they're task-oriented, the Gen Z. So if they finish, they're bored. You would easily want to find somebody trying to watch a movie in the office because they're done.
The employer's time.
The employer's time.
The employer's time.
I'd be aghast
You'll be shocked.
I'm shocked.
Okay, what do you think is going to be the reaction of a manager Gen X and a manager millennial and a okay, we don't have, I don't know if we don't have any managers millennials. What do you think is going to be their reaction to that? Gen X and millennial.
Gen X would be obviously thinking that this guy does not know what he or she wants to do.
PIP.
There's a problem. You cannot be doing this on your workspace. So they'll be aghast. Perhaps the millennial may want to understand what's going on. Did you finish this? Were all these tasks done before you start doing this? However, even if they were done, this may not be the space. They would probably a bit more gentle than I would be in terms of helping the Gen Z to come to realization that they're in the office space. But you see, that's where we need to be able to see that the workspace has changed now. We need to be able to adapt new ways.
I think so. I visited one of our clients' office when we were doing member education, and I realized they actually have what we call a gaming room.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
They have PlayStation stores. They have an aircraft creation sort of thing where you go in and you imagine yourself actually flying an aircraft and you land for a number of minutes. And I was shocked. Naomi, is this something that we need to start thinking of right now in most of these spaces, with the reality that we are having different generations who actually, for a fact, have a lot of time allocated on entertainment?
I'm surprised Irene did not see the first instant would be to fire this person from a Generation X perspective. And for sure, for the millennials, they will be a little bit patient and try to understand, is there another angle to this? Are you okay? Is everything in your environment okay?
Yeah.
Because that actually, you spoke about evolution. It's completely, I would dare say, day and night. Because we are coming from an environment of suit and tie to smart casual. Now, smart casual has slowly crept into the environment. So it's not just waiting for Friday for dress down. Yeah. Smart casual is permissible, gradually. The point on entertainment, quote unquote, really, it's not entertainment per se. It's recreation environment. It's not... can we tap into it? It is happening. Yeah. Especially in the multinational environment. They already, if you see the revamped offices, they have trampolines. They're called trampolines?
Yes.
Mini trampolines, the think hubs, breakout spaces, and they're very colorful. And some even have sleeping spaces. You can just pause and recreate.
Would you, Naomi,
would I utilize?
Would you not utilize? Would you allocate some budget for that? A sleeping space or screaming room? I hear we have screaming rooms as well.
Being exposed and interacting with Gen Z and giving them an ear. 100%. I would push for such a budget because we are coming into a space of understanding each other. It's a unique generation, but does that mean they are not part of us? They are part of us. They are our children.
Indeed.
They are currently now joining the workforce.
Indeed.
So we must, I think the future in the workforce must adapt and shift with this change if we want to see progression
and retain this
and for retention
and retain this talent. Again, I'll come back to you, Naomi, regarding expectation and yourself, Irene, on needs. Just a comparison between millennials and Gen Zs on work life and retirement. So Naomi, you'd comment something on retirement. Irene will comment something on work life, in the sense that, are their needs the same? Do they vary? And to what degree of variance? And how can we find a balance to accommodate this? Because at some point, I get to think the older millennials, those who are bordering Gen X, the older millennials, can highly be irritated by some things which the younger millennials will not be irritated by. And subsequently, if you have line managers in the previous category, older millennials and Gen X, they can actually have a problem dealing with Gen Zs. How do we ensure, or what are these needs we need to consider an expectation when it comes to you, Naomi, retirement and conversations about retirement?
For sure, it's different. How millennials perceive retirement and basically just the journey saving into retirement in comparison to Gen Z. I'll look at it from the angle of millennials are a bit settled. I'm tempted to say, as fate would have it, millennials have sort of accepted that this is the process. And I would say probably also the education system might have failed the millennials to some extent, whereby in school, the system was go to school, study hard. The outcome is get a good job for this kind of pay. So if you put in this much, it doesn't matter if you put in this much is more Kenya, but if you put in this
whatever
kind of effort, whatever it takes,
as long as you pass,
then the result is get a good job.
A good job.
And a specific kind of paying job. So the millennials worked toward that. So the ability to think without the box was not availed to many millennials. So that affects their perspective on retirement. And if we were to think critically, that is how the retirement sector was built.
Indeed, in this country, the establishment of the Act was in 1997.
Correct.
Perfect timing to what you're just saying, in the sense that it was, in fact, who drafted this Act?
I was treading softly, Wendell.
Which age group drafted the Act?
Correct.
What are the stakeholder engagements? With which people was this engagement done? And really speaks to further conversations which you need to have even in the industry on how we can accommodate that generation, because their perspective on retirement is different. Now, you said something about go to school, learn, and I've just remembered this song that was saying, so many vijana. Do you remember? Exactly. Mwisho wa kusoma utapata kazi nzuri. Exactly what you're saying. It's a conversation that cannot be avoided. It's about time.
So the journey into that, the millennials are settled. They know this is a process and they have learned to accept it. So my view is that is their approach to retirement. We work for 40 years, retire at 60, and a third of your life into retirement. There's nothing wrong with retirement. It's just the approach from the perspective they are looking at it. Now, look at Gen Z. First of all, that just term, pension and retirement, they don't want to hear it. If anything, they feel that you're hastening their steps. You're making them feel very old very quickly, and they're not ready yet. So the angle they're looking at it is because it's a generation whose part of the characteristics or the features are short-term goals and instant gratification.
YOLO.
Correct. So then they're looking at, if you force them to have that conversation, then I look to retire at 35, 40. I don't look at it to go all the way to 60. Because they've seen their Generation X go all the way to 60.
Millennials.
So definitely that changes the dynamics of the needs currently for Gen Z and the needs for millennials. So millennials will look for an environment where they find comfort and security in the workforce and acceptance. Then they will be loyal. If you're loyal to them, they will extend it back to you. They'll wait it out. But for Gen Z, they will pack and go.
Interesting, pack and go indeed. Irene, work life. What are they looking for? What are the millennials looking for? A comparison between millennials, let's say early, late, mid millennials, and Gen Zs in terms of work life. What are they looking for from the space of work? Are we going to be offering the same things in terms of benefits? Are we going to be talking about group life? Are we going to be talking about, hey, you'll get a pension, you'll get a gratuity and all those things, permanent and pensionable? Is this something that is similar or is definitely a stark difference between millennials and Gen Zs?
I would say that there's such a big difference. Sometimes you may not see it as stark difference, but there's such a difference. When you interact with the two, you'll see that like Naomi was saying, the millennials have adapted. they've adapted. I'm not even sure they've settled, but they've adapted to what they found. And so they will be able to actually accept a job description and a workspace, a work area. They will accept placement, as we call it in HR. When it comes to the Gen Z, they're task-oriented. Their workspace and in terms of welfare is daily. Fun, work, and balance.
Period.
It's a daily thing.
Yeah.
It's not the way the rest of us look at it and say, I need my let's say 8 to 4. Then after that, I'm going home. That's my balance. If I'm unwell, I'll get a sick off. There's that way that feels smooth. But for them, smooth is now. I do my work-life balance as I'm doing my work. So let's not start separate. This is me. This is I'm doing work. I'm doing fun.
Okay.
I'm doing balance.
All in the same basket.
All in the same thing. The one thing that I know that we are all generations are similar is the mental well-being.
Okay. Right.
Because what we have accepted, for me and the Gen X and the millennials, we can sit down for a lecture on mental health and we can sit down and read and maybe talk to one another. I think my age, it would be getting together with Naomi and just pouring out everything and she pours out and we are gone.
Yeah.
We are okay.
Yeah.
The Gen Z actually needs help, professional help, because their life is so fast.
All right.
So fast. Remember, these are the snap to a solution.
Snapchat,
That's just
Instagram,
snap to a solution.
all
Like
those
she
things.
said, instant gratification. But that comes with its negative.
Yeah.
So if I don't get it, I'm so disappointed. I feel not balanced. And hence the reason I can stand up and quit. So it is the balance is on a daily basis. And this is where as much as we say that there is no society, raising, let's say, the Gen Z.
Yeah.
We were raised by our grandmothers and aunties. No, now there is a whole social system that needs to raise them. From the teacher to the mother to the workmate to the boss. All of us are in line there to just ensure that the Gen Z is stable.
Because we cannot run away from this conversation of mental health.
No, we can. And they are going to stay in the workforce.
It is a very sensitive thing. And I think a couple of weeks ago, I was reading something which indicated that the younger people, let's talk about late millennials or younger millennials to Gen Z, are susceptible to suicide, actually. Why? Because of a lot of pressure from social media, a lot of pressure to try and live not within your means because you've seen so and so doing stuff like this. So this is something that employers must actually take into account. It's not a Gen X thing. It's not a Gen Z. It's not a Gen Z thing. It's cutting across the entire population. And I think I agree with you. Even in other forums that you have had, Naomi, you can chime in here for member education. The one fora that they always appear in is that segment of group life, medical. For some reason, they're always there. I think that makes a lot of sense because maybe the conversation around retirement planning to them is not a reality now, but the issues of mental health, group life, benefits, and all those things cutting across everyone is important for them to know. So, speaking of that, Naomi, then, and I'll come to you, Irene, in a short while. Do we need to curate our conversations with these different generations as you're talking to them about specifically issues of retirement, issues of saving, issues of investing, and budgeting, financial wellness and everything? Is it business as usual, or do we need to find ways, whatever it is, and if you have any suggestions to deal with this particular matter, how we can structure our communication to reach out to all these generations? Because the reality is, as Gen Xers will rather have a newspaper, a Gen Z will rather go to Twitter and read the thing and they move on. They actually go for that particular news item they want. Read it, get whatever they want and go. As opposed to we who want to buy an entire paper, we don't read everything. Okay, maybe I think we'll go to the crossword puzzle for some of us. But then you want to have that thing. I don't know. What do you think?
When it's inevitable. I think if you look at the data, what's the percentage of the Gen Zs in, for example, the state? our country, it's around 33%. That's high. We cannot just walk away.
It's very high.
Yeah. So if we want even to extend that conversation into pushing the economy, it must be all hands on deck. And this incorporate the Gen Z. So we are concerned and have realized the importance of these conversations of financial well-being and mental health, and now bringing it closer to the retirement conversation.
Yeah.
So we have acknowledged that, and I believe this generation is very bright. These are smart kids.
Oh, indeed, yeah.
They're very smart and creative kids.
Yeah.
So they are also alive to that fact. But then we need to find ways to reach them. If we know putting information in the newspaper will not be palatable to them, then, as you've put it, go to social media.
Yeah.
And I think most environments, workspaces are trying to do that. But even if you look at the brands that we consume and interact with on a daily basis, they've really embraced that to the fullest. You have influencers left, right, and center pushing for different agendas, different brands.
Yes.
And this is a target audience. The target audience is Gen Z. So if I want to communicate a medical conversation or a retirement conversation or a financial conversation, then I must purpose to incorporate this group into those conversations. How do I do it? How do they perceive? How do they absorb this information?
Yes.
And that's how I need to craft my gone are the days in our sessions for training for retirement where we just speak generally. We must endeavor to target the different clusters.
The segment.
When I speak to a Gen X, then it's not, I cannot craft my message similarly to how I want to reach out to a Gen Z. And even if it's in the same breath, then I must have segments in my presentation. So to the question, it's inevitable. We must craft the data or the information that we want to send to the population, including Gen Zs, to away each of them, and clearly each of them, because how Gen X will consume this information is not the same way. It must be to their levels. So the shorter version, yes,
as much as possible.
Yeah.
We can't run away from this. Irene, from the HR space, I think it's about time for us to really consider how we readjust employment terms and work structure. Whether it is working from home, whether it is, you call it hybrid system, whether it is working for 2 days, I don't know, at home, whatever it is, it's about time. Do you think we are ready? Majority of the employers, you may not have done some data and statistics, but do you think from your own perspective that we are ready to embrace this? One of the things that some of our colleagues were giving us feedback, and even out of our office, is that after COVID, we did not expect to go back to work. We expected to be doing what we were supposed to be doing from home and appear in the office when we really, really, really had to appear in the office. But seemingly, including some very big employers, whom I will not mention here, are actually telling their employees to now go back to work. Do you think it is a disservice to productivity and willingness to work even longer hours? Or do you think it's about time we actually resume working from the office?
Okay, that question is actually double-edged. And I must say that as Kenya, or this country, really at the progressive stage we are in, we should be able to adopt new ways in work.
Okay.
And indeed, I think COVID came to just show us how much better we can do work.
Yeah.
Okay?
Sure.
However, there are some industries that definitely cannot do work remotely.
Absolutely.
At all.
Yeah.
There are some industries that it makes absolute sense to have a hybrid system.
Yeah.
Because you don't have all these people. In fact, it is a chance for some companies to cut their office space into
half.
something.
Or zero.
Yeah. Indeed.
In fact, I will agree with her that that budget that was for rent could be used for that room for shouting and screaming. and just
Or gym.
yes, it's being creative.
Yes.
Let our creative juices.
Mhm.
However, I know that I have read in HR space, I have read a lot of studies that have been done elsewhere, not here, that the full work from home can be very dangerous for the mental health because you need social interaction. And so as a society that is also bringing in our young ones into the workspace and wanting to allow them to be innovative, we need to also be able to help them to stay sane by ensuring perhaps they have 2 or so days that they need to come and interact with people. Remember, our young people are so used to interacting with their phone.
Oh, yeah.
I can be
Oh, yes.
the three of us, in fact, should have been interacting like this.
On WhatsApp or something.
But it's our responsibility because we know what that can do to ensure that the workspace does not turn out to be negative rather than positive.
Yeah.
So full work from home may be dangerous, but full work from office can also be dangerous because we've tried it and people who are definitely not productive. It's very important for us to grow. If we are not ready, and I do feel that many of us are ready, but we need to take the bold step. I don't think we're bold
enough.
The step of doing the hybrid like other nations. If we continually keep having such conversations, I think a time will come very soon when we are ready for that and we can be able to work from where we are most
comfortable and productive as much as possible. It is imperative that we, depending with the industry with which you come, some you can, depending with your job, you have roles in the organization that are client facing, that are maybe saying in the reception, you cannot run away from that. You don't expect a doctor to work from home.
Someone was joking, drivers to work from home.
You know?
Or an engineer who's fixing your lift is fixing it remotely. You not even have faith to climb on that lift. Now, the other issue that I would like us to talk about just before we wind up, I believe, is how do we then view, and if you have any solutions, the attitudes of the Gen Zs and millennials. Again, I'm comparing these two generations because they're the ones who are now taking over the workforce. Millennials, Gen Z on matters savings, spending, and millennials, Gen Zs on matters investing. And I would like 1 or 2 comments from you, Naomi, and the same question to you as well, Irene.
Let me start with Gen Z. I think for Gen Z, they are hungry for mentorship. It's important that the generations who've gone before them, boomers, X, and millennials, to provide the same. Because as I mentioned earlier, this is a creative space, creative lot, and they think without the box. And
they've thrown the box away.
Very true. And they have a lot to give. And if we just give them an ear, and I like them in the workforce actually, because they always bring a fresh perspective, a different dynamic. And if you mentor them and you accept them, they're willing to give. They're very happy because they are also, as Irene mentioned, the society of social media. They're looking for likes. They're looking for that acceptance. It's being accepted because remember these career paths have been there. They've also gone to school for these same career paths. So their approach to it is a little bit different. They're looking for flexible hours. They're looking for, it's a gig economy. They're looking to plug in a different way, but it's the same space. So can they be accepted? And that acceptance is you're showing them the path. You're not telling them you don't know what you're doing. They might not know what they're doing, but is actually let them mirror you as you lead from the front. That will guide them into savings. They're keen on savings. They're keen on investments. If you look at the MMF space, they are really keen on it. And probably they have influenced the competition we are seeing in money markets currently.
Quite a bit.
There's very high competition in that space. And if you look at the age group, it's the Gen Z. They are into crypto. They're into Bitcoin.
Forex.
They're into Forex.
Yeah.
They are trading at night.
Yeah.
You're
While
seeing...
we're sleeping.
While we're sleeping. You're looking at a 25, 26-year-old and they're making huge purchases. Not all of them are illegal.
Yeah, and
Some
we
are.
assume. I would judge immediately and say that.
Yeah,
No.
some are actually doing these things to get their passive income.
Yeah.
Now, if that creativity, that interest is there, then how can it be sort of guided into a way that is beneficial long term? So are they keen on it? Yes. Is there a better way to do it in terms of the outcome and the income they have generated? Yes, they need guidance from the people who've gone before them in those spaces.
Right. Spending. Comment on spending.
I'll go back to the instant gratification.
Instant gratification.
And the fact that there's a lot of comparison. So that's why I'm very keen on mentorship.
Yeah.
Because if they thrive in social media, comparing, my friends are doing this. What am I doing? My friend has bought this car. I have sources of income, or I'm not yet there. They'll do anything to get the source of income. So with the proper guidance, then it's structured, so to speak.
Yeah.
So they're big on spending. But that's why they need grounding as well. So compared to the millennials who have attempted to settle into their spaces, attempted to look forward. And as I mentioned earlier, their space was a bit interfered with the education system. So their approach to savings, they are more recipient to the traditional ways of saving.
Typically, which is land.
You buy land.
You buy land. You have rentals. We went into quails. We had a quail season at some point. Farming a bit of it, but
a bit of farming.
Farming.
Yeah.
I think, Irene, before we started the podcast, we had a chit chat, and you mentioned something which is still stuck in my mind, that the two generations, millennials and Gen Zs, spend. It is where they spend. Would you just want to talk about that a little bit more?
Yes, indeed. Because if you look at the millennials around you carefully, don't ignore them. Just look at them carefully. You realize that they have spaced spending. They have phased out. They've got, I think, like Naomi said, they were affected by either us and the education system. So their spending is also a mirror of the effect of their education, the effect of what has been taught. So you'll find they will spend, perhaps closer to the weekend. They would spend on themselves. And they want to spend properly and be at the right club and drink the right thing.
Right in quotes,
Yes, but you will also see the difference with Gen Z is that they don't have that categorization that today is Monday, so I shouldn't maybe take my favorite drink, or it's now Saturday and Sunday, I should go. They could actually stay indoors the whole of Saturday and Sunday. And, Monday evening or Monday at 3, they say, oh, you're meeting with my friends here, and we are going bowling, then maybe we'll go and do this. And so their spending is not
predictable.
Actually, for
impulsive.
them, I'd probably say it's more of a flow. When it comes, I will spend. As it comes,
I will spend.
They live in the moment.
They live in the moment. Thank you. Those are
They
live in the moment, and they live well. Yes, they live well. What that gratification you talked about, what gratifies me is what I will do more. I will not. So they're not like me and you who will think, 6% is gratification, 5% is. No. Yes. And the good thing, though, with Gen Z is that as much as you think that they do not know how to plan their money, they do.
Uh-huh.
They do.
They do. They do.
They
They know how
Interesting.
to earn it.
They
They
do.
know how to earn it,
Mm.
They do know how to spend it.
to spend it.
Now, saving is something like I will be with Naomi, who 100% they need to be fully guided.
Mm.
But they have places where they save.
Mm.
You just have to guide them to help them to remember that the 80% of my actions is as a result of that 20% that I saved.
Yeah.
And just guide them properly.
Interesting. That statement really stuck to me, that how I spend and how Gen Z spend. We all love to spend. It just depends on where and how we spend our money. This thing called quiet quitting. You must have heard of it. You could have someone in the office and they are gone. How do we deal with it? Not just as employers, but also as parents, as mentors, as people whom we have Gen Zs under our care. How do we handle this? Just as one short comment from each of you before we wind up.
Actually, I wanted to tell you, Wendell, that a quiet quitting is even with me and you. That quiet.
That's why I wanted her to approach it on a HR's angle first.
Point of view. Yeah.
Yes. But the thing that I find helps with quiet quitting is the why. Why am I doing what I do?
All right.
And every generation needs information. Maybe mine not as much. It was how it was done. So. But whether it's the millennial or the Gen Z, or indeed even Alpha now, it's the understanding. If you realize parents need to speak to their children.
Yeah.
So I say take that broom to the kitchen. Why? It could keep us its rightful places there. And that understanding sorts out things.
And you're good to go.
They will not quit on you. Okay? Right. So it's very important that we learn to speak to each other and understand the whys of why we do what we do. You know? The song you sang earlier give you the why. Utapata kazi nzuri
Sana.
So of course I was motivated.
And the how.
But what is going to motivate this Gen Z? Perhaps they've seen their fellow millennial relatives who have maybe worked so hard in school and not gotten any jobs. And then you're telling them someone had no. So the why and understanding each person's way of doing things is different.
Interesting.
That's what
I fully agree with Irene. And as much as you touched a little bit on AI earlier, which is fully welcomed in our spaces, in the work environment and also in the retirement sector. Just to add on to it, the humanizing aspect of our dealings cannot be overemphasized. There's a quote I saw a little bit a while back in the Business Daily. 100% of your employees are people. 100% of your clients or your customer are people. So there's no two way around it. It's not talking about generations at the time.
Yes.
They are people.
Yes.
So we cannot run away from humanizing everything that we do. Regardless of the generation, Gen X, the boomers, and Gen Z as well. As Irene has said, we must listen to each other. Look for the whys, as she has articulated. Because, and I fully agree, even starting from the home environment, I have a Gen Alpha in my space and she checks me every time. and rightfully so, as she has said, that given an opportunity to actually have a conversation, things get done. You get results.
Indeed.
In the office, you'll attest when we have conversations, because when you have a conversation with someone, you're appreciating them. The message you're sending to them is, I see you. I appreciate you.
Yes.
There's a reason you're here, right? And if not, then you wouldn't be here. So by the fact that everyone is present in their spaces, then we must talk to each other. Not talk at each other. Talk to each other and listen. Then I think the dynamics of the challenges will be more of opportunities that we have.
Wow. Thank you very much. We are pressed for time. I would like to really appreciate finding time to be in this particular podcast today, video podcast today. Thank you so much, Irene. Thank you so much, Naomi. I guess it's about time you go and enjoy the beach. I've kept you here for far too long.
It was a pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Right.
All right.
Thank you.
Good evening, members.